and welcome to tonight's Roundtable. I'm Kate Burnham, the Superintendent of the Lunenburg Public Schools. And today we're going to talk about our services for English language learner students. My guests today are Laura Wild and Cindy Rosenkrantz. They are both teachers supporting our English language learners and our staff in general around supporting English language learners. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. So let's talk a little bit about the programming that we offer for students who are coming from families where a second language is spoken other than English.
Our program model is called Sheltered English Immersion, SEI, and it's very dynamic programming that involves integrating academic language development with content learning. So language learning is no longer a separate field, a separate content in itself. It's integrated with the math, literacy, and all the other content materials that students learn, but the emphasis is on academic language proficiency.
So once upon a time, many years ago, students who did not have any English language would have been taught in a classroom setting where they would have been provided instruction in their native language and been provided direct instruction in English language, right? To acquire the English language. Now, what you're describing with this sheltered English immersion, students are in classroom settings with their peers all day, and they're learning English in that context with support.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. The research has shown that it's a lot more effective to allow the students the opportunity to interact with their native language peers rather than being isolated.
It goes beyond the social language, the playground language, the cafeteria language. Many times students will be, oh, they're fine, they speak English. And that's true, but when it comes to the history, you know, putting their thoughts in words or on the paper as it pertains to, say, history or science, they don't have that technical language. So that's where the support comes in. And being in the classroom makes a huge difference. They're not being taught in isolation and then trying to figure out where they fit in when they come back into class. True.
And I think, too, being with their peers, they pick up the conversational language more quickly. Again, the academic language
comes later.
Comes a little later. But even for native English speakers, sometimes acquisition of academic vocabulary is a challenge as well.
The teachers use, you know, they always say, use your juicy words, or, you know, the $5 words, and that's for all languages. Right. So it's, they're learning together in partnership. So,
which is a good thing. So let's talk a little bit about proficiency in the language domains.
So when students come in, we get information that's provided by the parents on the home language survey, and that's a document that satisfies both state and federal requirements for screening of all students. And then we look at that information and make a determination as to whether that specific student needs to take a screening or proficiency screener. And that determines, if they do take that screener, that determines their proficiency levels. And the 4 different language domains are tested: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And at that point, we can place the students on one of 6 levels, 1 being brand new to the language, and 6 would be so proficient that it would be impossible to identify them from a native speaker. So there's a whole range, and the important thing is that we can also look at the specific domain. So there might be students who are achieving a 6 in listening and speaking, but maybe their writing skills are at a 3, so we know that's where we need to be working.
Right. Very good. So let's talk a little bit about what your instruction, direct service instruction, might look like for some of these students, right? There are regulations relative to guidelines, relative to the services that be provided to students in need of this type of support based on the screening. What does that look like?
Well, exactly, because once we get those scores, and we have a lot of guidance both from the state and from the consortium, the WIDA consortium, which is World Class Instruction and Design, and they provide a tremendous amount of material that help us determine what the students are going to benefit from the most. But let's say that student that I just mentioned who needs the writing skills, so either Laura or myself, we would be collaborating with that child's teacher to fit in with the instruction that's taking place in the classroom, and then focus on the specific skill that that particular student is going to need. So there could be a lot of different ways that it might look.
Okay.
But the key is that we're collaborating with the classroom teachers.
And do you find that that's a more effective model than working with a child either in a pull-out one-to-one model or even a small group setting?
Most definitely. It's along the lines of the same principles of special education. It's more important that the child is part of a group and can pick up on cues or routines and things of that nature from their peers. They're more receptive to the peer than they are to that teacher standing over them. But the opportunity presents itself, I like to co-teach with, and I will come in and ask to help out with a math lesson or an ELA lesson or a science lesson. And the students, my purpose is I don't want the students to say, hey, that's the ESL teacher. I'm just a teacher that comes in.
Right.
And it's just more, whether it's more visuals, it benefits a lot of students, not just the ESL students. So we try to work as best as we can with our colleagues. It's hard to find time all the time. It's usually on the fly in the hallway. Hey, I've got something for this lesson. Do you mind? And we'll give it to all the students at their levels as well.
So talk to me about some of the strategies that are particularly effective for students who are English language learners that also happen to be very beneficial for all students. Strategies that teachers might employ to work successfully to get all of these students to a place where they can access that academic curriculum.
So for example, going back to the levels again, we try to move the students from general to specific to technical vocabulary, whether it's what they're processing in listening and reading or what they're producing in their speaking and writing. So a couple of examples of tools that would be helpful for all students would be word banks and sentence frames, whether it's speaking or writing.
So talk to me, give me an example for the viewers at home. What's a sentence frame?
So a sentence frame would be almost like a fill in the blank, so a model. So let's say we're talking about social studies. We might say like the three main causes are, and then that's sort of open-ended. Or it could even just be a conversational piece that would allow a student to take part. I agree with blank because blank. Or if it's a brand new student, it could just be I agree with blank. So rather than that student feeling isolated and unable to participate, that student is now able to say, I agree with, what's your name? And the student is taking a part in the classroom and being active rather than just a passive learner.
Right, and perhaps even there might be some viewers that don't know what a word bank is.
Right.
How would you describe what a word bank is?
Well, you can't get any money from it. I'm going to tell you right now. But it's basically a list of words or a group of words that pertain to that lesson being taught that day. If it's science, it might be something like environment, habitat, decomposition, all these, specific words for that particular lesson. And it's usually, some of them display their word banks elaborately, with pictures and color and but it's basically just a list of words that we want those students, all of the students, to use in their writing and their speaking, and words that they're going to encounter in their reading. So that's how we try to build it up little by little.
So you have some student sample work here today. Maybe we could talk a little bit about what you brought.
Okay, sure. And this actually relates to a project that we'll probably get into a little bit later, but
Sure.
The students are doing a self-portrait this year where they're writing almost a resume and then also telling a little bit about something they wish their teacher knew about them.
Which is a great activity for teachers to do with all kids.
It is. This takes it a little step further. In the beginning of the year, we all want to know who our students are.
Sure.
And so you get little snippets. But this goes a little further. And it's specific to the ESL student because they're the shy ones. They might say, well, I have a dog. But then as the year progresses, they might feel, geez, I really wish my teacher knew that I like to do this, but not this activity, or I struggle with this. So this kind of gives them the opportunity. So we start with, these are the prompts that we used at the primary level, kindergarten through second grade. And they could draw a picture as to what they wish their teacher knew, and then create a sentence or two about what they wish their teacher knew. So that's for the little guys. And then we moved it up to the middle school, elementary school, 3 to 5 level, where they had to do like a resume, what their objective was. I want to go to the university and become an engineer. So it tells, his teachers may not have known that.
Right.
And what they bring to the classroom. I'm fluent in Spanish and English. I love reading stories in both these languages. So he gives his education, which he's a whopping 3rd grader right now, so he's got a long way to go. And then they could do a component of a visual. So some of them did pictures, some of them did videos. There was a dance routine, I believe. So that's going to be hopefully posted to either our web page or the district web page. But we'd also like to get them, at least 1 or 2 families, to come on the show and show them themselves and show how much, what they do wish their teacher knew about them, beyond the I have a dog and a brother and a sister.
Which is a good thing.
It is
it's nice
a good thing.
to get them to stretch.
Right.
What I especially like, too, is the focus on the children recognizing the value of their language and culture from their home, and then building on the new one, and just bringing in different elements, whether it's the visual. And then with some of the older students, they did create video clips and so forth.
Right.
But to have a young child in the 3rd grade write something like, I am from a bilingual home. I grew up in the digital and social media age.
Wow.
It's really good self-knowledge.
Right. Yep.
And this also reflects one of the emphasis we mentioned, the WIDA consortium, which is now 38 different states, and happily Massachusetts is one of those. All of their emphasis is on what students can do. In fact, they even have something called can-do descriptors. So instead of us just throwing our hands up in despair and like, he can't even read this simple book, it's like, well, what can the student do? And going back to the levels that I mentioned, at each one of those levels and in each one of the 4 domains, there are specific descriptions, all very positive, on what we would typically expect a student at that level and in that grade range to be able to process and to be able to produce. So it's very positive, and it also gives us a chance to push the student to the next level, because we know just where they are now and then what they need to do to just move up.
It's similar to what all teachers should be doing relative to, let's say, a reading level for any student,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Where are you now? What what skills can I continue to work with you
Right.
on to push you to the next level.
Right.
Very, very similar
Exactly.
to what you're describing.
Right, and if at the proficiency level, if they're supposed to be starting chapter books, and your student isn't, then maybe that is a signal. Okay, why at this level, 3 or 4, are they not reading chapter books? Is there something else we need to look at? Or do I need to change what I'm using for the access for the books? Not every child is going to be able to read War and Peace, or so let's
want
take
to.
it, or want to exactly. But then the teacher has a little bit of guidance, both the ESL teacher and the classroom teacher. And I think a lot of times teachers feel overwhelmed. As we know, they don't know where to start.
Right.
And ESL students are not any different than native speakers. They just need a little bit of help accessing the language, and let's meet them at their level. And most of them are very willing to, and they'll eat it up. They really just want to take that language, because then they can teach mom or dad if mom or dad isn't so proficient, which
Very true.
goes into a whole other thing when the child knows more English than mom and dad. But
you mentioned the staff, and I think that both of you do a lot to support the staff to be able to support students. So talk to me a little bit about the ways in which you work with staff.
So again, getting back to our SEI model, the structured English immersion. So going back, I'd say about 5 years in our district, the teachers started participating, and now every core content teacher or classroom teacher needs to get an endorsement, an SEI endorsement that the Department of Education has provided for staff, and now there are a lot of different providers as well. But most all of our staff have earned that endorsement, and along the way, Laura and I support them with that. We meet with them, they interview us, so we've worked with dozens of either teams, grade levels, or individuals while they're earning their endorsement to provide some information that they need to take their course.
So when you pop into classrooms to work with students, are you seeing that teachers are utilizing those strategies that they learned while they got that SEI endorsement, or do you see the need to continue the coaching, reminders that these things they're beneficial to all students, but they're needed for our English language learners?
Some teachers are more comfortable than others using the strategies, and it's not so scripted in those classrooms. It's part of everyday activity. There are some that I'm sure would, like to have a little bit more, coaching help, ideas. It's just a matter of giving them that opportunity to sit and plan things. Back when we both started in the district, we would provide PD for paraprofessionals, other staff members, and we tried to get specific for middle school, high school, so that the kindergarten teacher wasn't learning the same kind of things as the high school chemistry teacher was. And we forward all kinds of free PD from WIDA to help with the academic language. I think there's a math one coming up that I'm getting the materials for, so I can get it out to the teachers. If they can't, there's a webinar, and they also have live trainers. But time-wise, sometimes we might just have to give them the information, and then they can take that and run with it.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, I have heard teachers say to me, I wish I had known this sooner. I had no idea, making comments like, oh, I'm using this for a lot of my other kids too.
They're
so
already
really
doing it. They just don't realize it. And it's almost like they need that affirmation from us saying, no, you're doing it. You're doing it. So, but.
Well, I think, from my experience, that having that opportunity for job-embedded PD, to have teachers with expertise who can come into your classroom and provide that co-planning or coaching or modeling, is extraordinarily helpful in allowing teachers to internalize those strategies so that they do become second nature.
Right.
You know, it's tough when you go off and you take a course,
Yes.
and you're exposed to 10 things.
Right.
Maybe you're able to come back and implement with some level of consistency,
Right.
3 out of the 10.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? But having the opportunity to have experts to consult with really does, I think,
Right.
support teachers
Yeah.
in pushing and continuing to learn and implement strategies that help all students
yeah.
access
Mhm.
the curriculum. It's
I
very,
agree.
very important.
It's always helpful to have a refresher, and for us as well. This is, I've been in this field for a long time, and I've never seen it this dynamic. It seems to be constantly changing,
Right.
not only the terminology, but the techniques, the approaches.
Right.
And I have to say it's for the better,
Oh, sure.
but we all need to keep on top of the
Right.
research.
It's
and the-
overwhelming.
yeah.
at
It
times.
is. It
Even
is.
for us. We're like, what are we calling that this time? What is it this week? So,
Well, that's it. You know, staying up on that is, if it's a challenge for the two of you who have dedicated your career to it, you can imagine for classroom teachers how
Right.
difficult it is to stay current with all the changes in any number of areas
Right.
Of what it is to be an educator today.
especially in the state of Massachusetts, we lead the nation for a reason. And it's overwhelming for some of our teachers. So if we can help out in any way, shape, or form, that's, you know, that we want to be utilized. you
But
know.
the professional development is
Yes.
interactive too,
Yes.
because a lot of the newer PD now for English learner teachers comes from math or from the National Science Foundation and so forth, and they have what we call placemats, or little grids, a matrix
points.
that shows different things, that the talk points that teachers can ask the students, and then little cue cards the students can use to interact in their groups and their classrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Quality of support
Yes.
in Massachusetts is just, it really has increased
Right.
dramatically.
Yes.
we're very fortunate.
Yeah.
I
We,
agree.
we are. We have some phenomenal resources
Yes,
through
we
the
do.
Department of Ed website.
Yep.
So we've talked a little bit about how you support students directly and how you support staff to support students. But I think one of the things that's most impressed me about the work that you do, because it does not happen everywhere, is the work that you ladies are doing to support families and adults in the community. So let's transition and talk a little bit about that. What are some of the ways you're working with adults?
This has been one of the more unexpected and
Right.
very gratifying aspects of my work here in Lunenburg. And we've really greatly expanded our family engagement with the goal of the families taking the initiative and being more involved in their students' education. I can't even imagine what it's like for some of the families when they first arrive here. Not all of them come from far away. I mean, we have some students who were born in this country also, and the parents have been here for a while, but we have newer people as well. And especially when the families, the parents and the families aren't as proficient in English, many times they lack the confidence, and they might not be seen at open house, at parent-teacher conferences. Not only is there a language concern or barrier, as some people would say, but there's also some cultural components, because in a lot of the cultures, teachers and educators are in such high regard that the families would never dream of going in and asking questions or questioning the staff members.
Right. Mhm.
So we've seen a lot of that.
Right, right. And in our families, we hold 2 family meetings a year. This year, we're actually doing 3. Usually at the beginning of the year, to let the parents know, welcome them, new and old families, and get them the information that they need. This year, we did another family meeting twice, one at noon and one at 5, I think, at the library. And that was to let them know about their child taking the access and when those results would come out, and here's some resources, and don't forget to sign up for tutoring if you need tutoring in English. And then at the end of the year, we kind of wrap it up and say, okay, do you have any questions about your child's access scores? And do you have any concerns going to the next school, the next grade level. So, I think they come for the cookies, actually, but they do enjoy, they're relaxed. You can see when they come through the office or they come into the library, they go from that, oh, I don't know if I should be here, to, oh, I can be here. I'm supposed to be here. And that's what we like. And we see some volunteering more. But one of I think our prizes this year is our home visits. We started them last year, and at first, it was, do they want us in their home? Because, when two strangers are coming into your home, why are you here? But we kicked it off, and it was highly successful, and we hope to have a couple of more visits this year.
And we just let families know that, we would love to visit you in your home, just to have an opportunity for a relaxed conversation. In some cases, a home visit, not for us, but in some programs would be only if there's a problem at home.
Right.
In this case, it's to reach out and let the families know we can just sit and talk and relax, and then you can ask questions and give us suggestions that maybe you might not feel comfortable doing in a more formal setting. And we've even done workplace visits,
we went to a workplace.
because if the schedule just didn't work out, and so a gentleman said, well, I could see you in my lunch hour at my workplace. So it was great, and I agree with Laura. Those are the families that we see now showing up for meetings or contacting the teachers when they have questions.
Right.
And I don't think we mentioned our free ESL for adults that we initiated also.
Yeah.
And that's a great community collaboration, and we've seen real benefits from it.
So explain to the viewers what that is.
So we ourselves aren't the teachers,
Right.
but we collaborated with literacy volunteers of the Montechusett region, and we look at the Ledger or the different papers, the different
local
Maybe the
papers.
Sentinel.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we try to get volunteers from Lunenburg, and once folks volunteer, then they take part in the literacy volunteers. It's an 18-hour research-based training.
All free.
Yeah, all free. And then the prospective students are screened, so we know what level they are. Then we match the tutors and the students, and most of the folks meet over in the public library, but they figure out a schedule that works for everyone, and that's just been great.
So if somebody listening right now is interested in becoming one of these tutors, what should they do?
Oh, please, contact us, please, as soon as possible.
Right.
You can just email, I guess, our program director or yourself or whomever, and I'm sure the information will get to us.
Right. Right.
So we would be very happy for more volunteers.
And like I said, this type of support for families, going out and making home visits, going to a workplace to meet during a lunch break, to fostering an opportunity for adults to learn English. I've been in several districts, and that does not happen everywhere. It just does not. So congratulations
Thank you.
to both of
Thank
you.
you.
It really does speak to the commitment and the passion you have for the work that you do.
Thank you.
And I think Lunenburg is very lucky to have you.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Well, we see that family engagement is really essential, and we're really fortunate now. Also, we've been able to participate in a statewide initiative where there are 7 different agencies collaborating to build a family engagement framework. It was started out with birth, and I think now they're saying it's prenatal.
Prenatal to college, or
through
beyond.
College
I think
and
it's-
career.
I don't know how you do that,
beyond.
And beyond.
And
That sounds a little like
Buzz
Buzz
Lightyear.
Lightyear.
Yeah. But we've also we've met with the Spanish American Center to get some resources for our families. Project Apples in Leominster has given us some great ideas and free activities for families on vacations. The Neshoba Health to get the community nurses involved. Parent-Child Home Program, Clinton. We've gotten our names out there and gotten some resources in, and here, go on this website, get these pamphlets. So that will help on the 2 things we'd like to do in the fall, which is family wellness and there was one more.
Study skills
The study skills
workshop.
to help the parents help the children.
Very good.
So
Always thinking about the next step.
That's what our whiteboard is for. You come in our office, we have this wall, and it's all our ideas.
It's a good thing.
It is a good thing, yeah.
I need about 5 or 6 walls worth of whiteboards for myself, actually.
I'm sure.
So many great ideas. But the fact that you actually pursue them and put them into action is really phenomenal.
Well, it's very gratifying
Yeah.
because we see almost immediate results,
Yeah.
and you know, we hear from other teachers that they see parents coming in, as Laura said, volunteering in the classroom.
It makes such a difference.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yep.
So we've covered an awful lot of ground
We
here
have.
today. So if there are folks at home who heard little bits and pieces of things that were of interest but need more information, what would you suggest? Where should we direct any of our viewers who would like more information?
Well, we did mention the WIDA Consortium, the World Class Instruction and Design, and there are a tremendous amount of materials free on the website. And of course, the Department of Education has specifically an area for English learners, and there's a lot of information there as well, and the district website, naturally.
Very good.
And somehow the message will get to us, and we'll do what we can. Yeah.
Can-do attitude. You can't ask for more than that,
That's
right?
what we try, yeah.
And what I'd love to see maybe sometime soon would be some of our English learner parents and the volunteers that work with them being featured on one of the episodes.
We can get more, you know.
Absolutely.
Help out, yeah.
Absolutely. We got to keep a spotlight on the good work that you ladies are doing.
It's growing, so we want to keep up with it and put things in place.
Yep.
So.
Nope, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.